Hello, everyone. I'm back with another session of creative authors and illustrators. Today, I'm going to be talking about two books. One is written by Mallika Ravikumar, the other is written by Nandita Basu. And both these books caught my attention because of the unusual content and the way the characters have been brought to life. So, yeah, I would like uh, to introduce the authors. Mallika, say hi. Nandita, say hi.
Hello, good to be here.
Hi, so nice to be here. Thank you so much, Shamla, for the opportunity.
Yeah. So thank you for coming here. So Mallika has done ebooks before, and this is her second printed book for children, right? Yeah. Nandita,
Yes, this is the second one. Tracing Roots by Cultivate is the first.
Yeah, that's for slightly young, younger age group. This is more for 8 to 15 years, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nandita, you've been associated with comics for a long time, and this is your first foray into creating something for children.
That's correct. That's correct. Because I have been making comic books and short stories and stuff, but that's not really been for children so much. But this is like the first one for children.
Nandita, would you quickly like to tell our viewers about what your book is all about? Who is the right reader? Show the book. Where's
With
it?
the right reader, actually, as if you ask me, is anybody and everybody. But since we are talking about, like, I think my book is, I'm a huge fan of whatever people call children's books, because I love The Little Prince. So, for me, I believe like a book is for every age group. But if I have to specify and, say, speak about the age group, I would say this would be for anybody above, like, 8 years to 12.
Okay.
That's the age group, you'd be looking at.
Mallika, what about your book? What's the age group and
Yeah, so this is my book, Trace.
Sorry.
Right. So of revolutionaries and brave hearts, this is based on history. So it's for a slightly older group, 10 plus. So 10 to 14 would be the target age group for this book, because it deals with some topics and subjects that are a little complex to understand for very young kids.
Right. Mallika, you have chosen a very different, unique approach. You've chosen a collection of different topics to introduce to children. You could have stayed in a safe zone and written about kings and queens and kingdoms. What made you choose this unusual type of subject? And what surprised me was the way the stories. This is a collection of many stories, right? You could have chosen. When I went through these stories, each story had the potential to be developed into a middle grade novel, into a proper young adult novel. So why did you choose this format of writing stories through anthology?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question. I have always loved history, and I found that most people around me, whether it was in school or later in college when I did my MA in history, people used to ask me, why are you studying history? And most children find history very boring. And when I ask them, they sort of say, why should I study about these kings and wars? And they can't relate to this aspect of history at all. But I always looked at history differently. For me, history was not just the story of kings and queens and wars and dynasties, but also the story of our food, our language, our beliefs, our thoughts, the way we live, the way we conduct ourselves. All that has a history. And all that is so fascinating and can be something that children can relate to more than some distant dynasties and wars, which they seem, disconnected with. So I wanted to share that perspective of history with them, of the way I look at history and find it so interesting. I thought I'd like to share it with them and see if they, change their opinion about history after looking at it from an alternative lens.
Right. Nandita, are you with us? Nandita has suddenly gone off. So anyway, till she joins us, you've be it the creation of Aruna, be it the creation of Kuti Ahmed, Sukha Haridas, the unmasking of Vasco da Gama. You kind of created these characters and blended them into stories, right? With a lot of courage and conviction. Where does this strength come from? You know,
Right.
and it's like it's in your face. It's presented in a hard-hitting manner. There is no packaging, tying the entire story with a happy ending, with a bow, and it's not all red roses and pink
Yes,
ribbon.
yes. Right, right. No, so I'm glad you picked this aspect up, because I find, we sort of have this fairy tale way of telling stories to kids. Everything ends happily and everything is sort of a bed of roses, and history is about great explorers and great kings and great conquerors. And everybody is turned out to be either, a hero or a villain. And you're sort of singing eulogies of these great kings and making them into some great people. But they also had another side. Wars are not really wonderful stories. There are other people who suffer a lot because of wars. Famines are not just about numbers of people who die, but there are people who actually go through hell during famines, and their stories are never told. And like you rightly said, this is a bold look at history. And I think it comes from having researched these very, very thoroughly. For example, for this last story of you talk about Kuti Ahmed, I've read lots and lots of books about Vasco da Gama and his explorations and his journeys. And that courage comes from there, because I know what I'm saying is based on hard facts. It is not just my imagination. Of course, the stories it is historical fiction, and there are stories about people who have been sort of fictionalized, but the base of it, the foundation, is hard research. So I think the courage comes from there in a sense.
Right. Nandita, your book, why did you choose the format of a graphic novel? You've done so many comics before. So why did you think that this particular format will work? Did you experiment with other forms, in the form of a picture book or a comic book, till you found the right way to tell the story?
Well, actually, I didn't think of it that way. You see, for me, I think in terms of pictures, and I am a comic book writer. So for me, there is no other option. I mean, I did write a little bit of prose, but I figured out prose is very difficult. Like I write in poetry form, but that is very difficult for people to kind of, relate to, even children for that matter. So, I mean, I don't have a choice, because that's the only way I think. When I close my eyes and I need to see a story, it comes down in sense of a picture. Okay. For me, it's like a movie. It's essentially a movie with, with a camera angle, and it has to be put out there. So there was no question of kind of, experimenting with any other, like, I mean, I have illustrated for other people, but when it comes down to my own stories, it just becomes like a sequential comic art. So, there is no other way, I think, basically.
So, the characters of the Sardars in the book, right? Veer Singh, Kartar, Victor. Did you have to research a lot to find these characters to fit into the story? Because I know, the piano has been a part of your life, so that you knew, when you discovered that the piano had a history, that's the piano story. But to find other characters and place them in the context of the book.
I don't think I had to research much, because I picked up stuff which I've experienced in my life. Like, basically my book is not like Mallika. She's hard facts and stuff there. Mine is very fictionalized, There are characters I picked up, but they're not really there. I mean, nobody can say they really existed, I mean, yes, there is Beena Das who's there, but, again, it's just my point of view. It's not what may have happened. Right. But for me, like the book also, like I never had to research too much, but the events and the places, they're actually there. So the reason for me, introducing Indian Sikh soldiers is because I have actually stumbled upon probably a very, very huge cemetery somewhere in some village in Belgium when I was traveling many years ago. And there was nobody around, but a very well-kept cemetery. And I walked in there and I stood there, and there were all these Indian names. I said, my God, nobody will ever know. And so, when this piano is traveling, it has, I mean, come from it is a European piano that was shipped in by somebody, right? So it definitely has a back history. So automatically that fit in, because it's there in my memory. So, it just became a part of the storytelling. So not so much research in that way, but it's something I have experienced. It's stuck in my memory. So it just fell into the story. But I wouldn't like contrive to push it in there. I thought it fit in, so I sort of had it there.
Malika, being a historian, I'm sure you had like 1,000 facts you could have woven into the story, and ye bhi dalo, wo bhi dalo. You know, you just it's a big challenge to stick to the narrative and deliver the story. So, what was your biggest challenge of weaving these short stories?
I think one of them, of course, is because you have to put an end to the research at some point and say, okay, now I'm going to sort of start writing and I'm going to distill these facts and reduce it to only this much. That is a big, big challenge, especially when it comes to people writing about history, because it never ends. You know, there's always another source to check. There's always another perspective to look at. It just is never ending. And also when you're telling these stories to children, although I am showing the other side, it cannot get too brutal and too nasty, which it actually is. You know, there are some of the stories which are, you know, shocking, but you need to sort of filter it to make it palatable to children. So that again is a challenge, because you're trying to show reality without masking it, without glorifying it, but you need to make sure that it's not very hard hitting in the sense that they get completely, you know, put off or horrified by what they read, but actually just enough to show them, enough for them to take more interest to find out more.
Right. You wanted to add something more, Malika? You're free.
Yeah. No. And of course, yeah, because these are long stories, you know, word limit is another limitation. And of course, working with the editors is very helpful, where they say that, you know, now you need to cut it out. So yeah, it's always nice to have a good editorial team, and because you can just go on and on. These are great stories to keep telling.
Yes. Right. Nandita, the character of Victor Schmidt, was it inspired by the French composer Florent Schmidt? Because I realized that this composer actually lived in that particular era.
Not so much particularly him or anything, but you know, he is, I mean, it's probably inspired by an entire amalgamation of like a lot of concert pianists, you know. You know, just the idea of a concert pianist. So not a concert pianist in particular, but you know, just somebody who deals with the you know, music or piano as an art form, or like, you know, is indulging in it. Because for me it was important, because the story is built around a musical instrument. A musical instrument has a certain relationship with the person who plays it. So, and the main character in the book, like, you know, the little kid, she doesn't really play it, right? I mean, she learns to play it. But I had to also show like the piano existing in a certain kind of a space for another person. So it came in as like, you know, what does a musical instrument mean for any musician? And that comes from my own personal space as well, because I'm also a musician. So for me, that is the thing I kind of wanted to, you know, put forward.
Malika, you have Sane Guruji, you have Vasco da Gama. You know, they are like central characters in two of your stories. Was it easy to add them into the stories? Did you like place these characters and build a story around them? Or did you fix the story? You know, you had an outline in place and then said, let me see who I can place in this particular story.
Yeah, so one of the approach that I really had was these were the themes that I wanted to share. Like I said, I wanted children to have a different perspective of history. So I wanted them to, you know, understand certain things related to classification or hierarchy in society, which is the first set of stories. Then stories about food, about, you know, there's a story about how tea was stolen from China and brought to India. Before that, nobody in India was drinking tea, although we think it's a very Indian drink. So and the politics that went on behind that, you know, because to understand that food is not as simple as something that just arrives on your plate and you eat it, but there is a lot of politics that goes on behind the simple food that you eat. So I wanted to share that perspective. I also wanted to, like in the last story, share that, you know, we're constantly drummed in with a certain narrative about people like Alexander is a great king or a conqueror, or Vasco da Gama is a great explorer, but that is one side of the story. And I wanted to share this theme that there are, you know, often you're told certain things, but always look for the other side of the coin before making a judgment. So those are the themes I wanted to share. And then to share those themes, I was thinking what stories would be good to fit into those themes. So that is the approach I really took.
Was it easy writing this book? Because as a historian, you tend to write a lot. right? So,
Right.
paring down the text and bringing it to a certain frame.
Uh, Right. Yeah, it hasn't been very easy, but it was, in fact, the other book that I am writing now is actually a little more challenging, also history based, but it is non-fiction. So because this is fiction, you sort of can take certain liberties, which you reveal in the end that these are liberties you've taken, and you can sort of, stretch the boundary a little bit because it is fiction. But since it is historical fiction, you have to have your sources right and really make sure that what you're saying, if it is something that you are claiming happened, it is corroborated by various sources. So those challenges are definitely there in writing historical fiction. Yeah.
Nandita, for you, you used to using minimal text. As a book artist, it's more visual, right? So was it easy writing this book, or did it kind of flow easily? Putting the text into those tiny bubbles.
Yeah, see, that challenge is always there because, with a graphic novel, you'll have to have a proper combination of both the words and the pictures. So, I'm not going to be drawing something to describe it, but I just need something that will be kind of married to each other properly. But honestly, I don't find that as a challenge. My biggest challenge is usually, when I am thinking of a book, the pictures just flow too quickly and I'm not fast enough to keep jotting down the points. So that becomes a hassle because as opposed to, writing a book, you're able to write down at a certain speed and, able to do certain things in a certain way. With a graphic novel, the biggest challenge is you're seeing something, hearing something, and then to put it together and you're not quick enough because imagination in the mind is faster. So that is always a problem I face. I'm almost always exhausted after, a book is done.
As a musician, were you tempted to add a lot of music elements? I find that there's no mention of a note, a beat, just showing off your music talent. It's like it is meant to appeal to a basic reader who has zero knowledge of music. So was that was that a conscious attempt?
Yes, because I think if you have read this book by Vikram Seth, Unequal Music.
Okay, I haven't read it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's he writes from the perspective of a novelist, but the music, the stuff he talks about, the all the musical terms and stuff, it's pretty tight. So unless I think you can produce a book from that space, nobody should write a book on music. So I didn't, neither did I want those things in it at all, because it shouldn't come like I can start talking about composers, I can start talking about elements, but it shouldn't be that. So I didn't want it that way at all.
Okay. Malika, how easy was it to maintain the balance and find the right stuff to make it suitable for children? Because see, your book is hard hitting. I was like, huh? ये भी है, there's discrimination, there's caste, there's there are a whole lot of other stuff happening in the book. And how much can you feed a child? Introduce the child to a particular topic without it getting too grim. Was that something you struggled with?
Right.
Or were you clear?
Yeah, initially, even with my own kids.
Okay. Are they in the age group of 8 to 15, your target group? So did you test this book with them?
No, my children are 9. I have twin boys, they are 9 years old. Okay. And initially, even with my own kids, I would take the approach of, no, there's too much violence in a particular story, and I wouldn't tell them that story or that movie or find that, it is not suitable. But then when they took to Harry Potter and they read all the Harry Potter books and saw all the Harry Potter movies, and there's a lot of violence and a lot of, content that I thought was unsuitable for kids, but they digested it and enjoyed it and kept talking about it non-stop. So I thought, are we sort of, and the children constantly, you find them watching, superhero movies, whether it's a Spider-Man or a Iron Man or whatever, and there's a lot of violence in that. So are we sort of cushioning them too much? Of course, not very young kids, but I'm talking about slightly older kids, as this thing is suitable, I said, for 10 plus. So they do, encounter many of these things in other stories which they see. So why give them this glorified view of history of everything being great and cushy and rosy, when in reality also has a lot of violence and a lot of, gruesome things that have happened. But like I said, of course, it has to be filtered to make it palatable for them. So which doesn't mean that you lie to them. You don't tell them that everything is rosy and great. But at the same time, you sort of filter it down by a few notches, or give them one side to it, and they can then find out more once they're ready to, get the bigger story.
Right. Nandit, could you please repeat the last line? I think we lost the audio for that. Mallika, can you please repeat the last line?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I said, yes. So I did not want to, you don't need to lie to children and tell them something is, all about glory and fame and goodness and greatness. But at the same time, you don't need to give them something which is horrifying in its entire detail and gore. So there was a sort of filtering process, but at the same time, making sure that I'm telling them and showing them the truth. That was also central to the, the process.
Yeah. Nandita, you've been a musician for many years, and obviously you play many other instruments. So were you tempted to add those instruments to the story? What are the instruments you play?
I actually play, my primary instrument is the piano, but I'm also a violinist, and I dabble a little with the cello. But because piano is the instrument, I relate to the most, because that's what I've been actually trained on the maximum, and that's my primary instrument. I wasn't really tempted to add in anything, simply because, for me, if you think of an instrument, each has its very own personal character. So if I were to start creating big characters out of each instrument, that would just not make it. You can't have a piano, you can't have a violin with all heavy characters. So, you have to save those for different parts and different books, maybe different occasions, but together it wouldn't go. So no, I was very clear it had to be about a piano.
So you had played the piano when you were a kid, right? Before you met your special piano.
Yeah. That was the reason I got it, because I finally had to buy one because my practice wasn't enough. And that's the reason that kind of came into my life.
Because when I read the author's note at the end of the book, that was a question, which went in my mind, that what was it about this instrument which kind of caught her attention, So, you can look at hundreds of instruments, but so I thought maybe that you had some association with pianos to kind of, make this.
Yeah, right. The reason it came into my life was because, it wasn't so much today that it was to be a story. It was there simply as a practical thing, that you don't have to be better at something. I need an instrument, and that was the only option I had. So that's how it came in.
Mallika, have you been attracted to history right from your childhood?
Very much. Actually, it was my favorite subject in school, and I wanted to study history immediately after that, but life led me down another path, and I went and did law and things. But then when my children were born, I decided I wanted to go back and study history, so I went back to college and did an MA. So history, I think there was always an attraction to history right from my school days. And after that, I don't want to go back to my legal career, although I was very happy there. So I think it's something that I feel very comfortable in this space. And working with children and history, these are the two things that I think I'm driven by, the idea of making history interesting for kids. So I hope, through my books and blogs, etc., I sort of get somewhere close to that goal.
So there are various topics. You made a very conscious attempt there's been a lot of whitewashing of history, to make it palatable for the kids. The way you want to portray certain people and events. And there's a very conscious attempt in your book to show children that, listen, this is what happened. You know one part of it. This is the not so nice part of history, but you need to know it. Right? At what point, stage in life, did you realize that these issues need to be addressed and children need to know about all the stuff which was not so right and not being addressed? I've never come across any book which has dealt. This is like, it's absolutely hard hitting. it's not rosy at all. It's like deal with
Yes,
the truth
yes.
kind of thing.
Correct, correct. Yeah. So I think there were several things. For example, I grew up learning a lot about, a lot of literature, and I enjoyed learning Wordsworth and learning Shakespeare. But I had never been introduced to my native literature. As a Tamilian growing up in Mumbai, I didn't learn Tamil in school, although my grandmother and mother tried. So I could not read, native Tamil literature or native Hindi or Sanskrit literature. And as I discovered them as an adult, I wanted to know why I had been robbed of this legacy and culture of mine. I have no complaints about being fluent in English. I'm very happy that I am able to speak in a language that is spoken so widely in the world. But why am I not able to read my own native literature? It was something I felt cheated about, and I wanted to know more. And that sort of led me to one of the stories here, The Harbinger of English, and a story of Macaulay, and the prejudice which he carried. And many of us, and I know that many English speaking children grow up with this prejudice in India that, this person can't even speak English, as if it's sort of a certificate of intelligence or something. And I wanted to address that. I felt cheated in my own sense, and I wanted to also address it, to share it with my children, so that they don't carry this prejudice. And similarly, other things also. As a city-bred person, I knew very little about caste and caste atrocity. But then I took it led me, like this triggered something. There were other triggers that led me to, question why this happens, and look back at history in a different perspective. And so there were various triggers in life, and each trigger led me down different paths, and that sort of reflects in the many stories you find here.
Right. So we are running short of time. So Mallika, can you quickly tell our viewers what they will be missing if they don't read your book?
Okay, so like I said, this is a book on history with a different perspective. It doesn't give you all the answers. It won't tell you about, Babur ka beta Humayun, Humayun ka beta Akbar sort of thing. But it will leave you with a lot of questions that help you relate history with the world around you. So if you find history boring, or if you find history interesting, this will make a history, give you a different perspective of history. And I think so you should read my book to get a different flavor of the subject.
Right. Nandita, yes, your book pitch now.
Yeah, well, my book is all about human emotions, stuff that we all feel. It's about friendship, it's about loneliness, and I think we can all relate to that. And it has a happy ending. Okay, so I think we all need a happy ending in life, and it's important to have something that makes you feel good about yourself, your friends, and makes you feel all right, even if you're not in the right space, because it's going to be all right one day. And it's one of those books I think you will want to carry for the rest of your life, so you should have it.
So yes, we've come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, and I hope our viewers enjoy. And please, please, please buy these books. These are totally fabulous books, and I think it'll make a wonderful addition to your library. And you can actually create a lot of conversation with your kids, right? So yeah, bye. See you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much.